What if the very emptiness you fear is actually a sign you're finally on the right path? You know the feeling, that peculiar quiet, the song that used to light up your entire nervous system now just plays. An invitation to gather with friends lands in your inbox, and instead of excitement, you feel a subtle, heavy sigh within. The goals you wrote with conviction months ago now look up at you from the page like souvenirs from a stranger's life. You move through your days as if there's a layer of thick glass between you and the world. Everything is muted, distant, and the most confusing part? Nothing catastrophic happened. No single event to point to and say, that's why. The lights didn't shatter, they just dimmed. And the fear that accompanies this isn't about the sadness. It's the terrifying question. Is this just what life is now? What if I told you this isn't an ending, but a profound and necessary beginning? That this flatness is not a flaw in your design, but a feature of your evolution? Stay with me. What we explore today will reframe everything you're experiencing. This isn't your life falling apart. It is in fact preparing you to come together in a way you never have before. First, the unnamed transition. The unnamed transition. There exists a shift in the soul that makes no sound. It doesn't arrive with drama or collapse. It unfolds in silence, like the slow, imperceptible softening of a shell you've worn so long you forgot it wasn't your skin. And then one morning, you realize what's becoming porous isn't your existence, it's your costume, the identity you constructed to navigate the world of people and pressures. In depth psychology, this constructed self is essential. It's the face you present at work, in your family, to society. It's not inherently false. We all need a functional interface. But the crisis begins when that interface hardens into a prison, when the mask adheres so completely you forget you're wearing one. The moment your old passions lose their color, the moment the achievements you chased feel like someone else's trophies, that is often the first signal the costume is cracking. This transition doesn't announce itself with a bang. It whispers through a gradual fading. The career path that once filled you with purpose now feels like a series of empty motions. The social rituals you maintain to belong suddenly feel like a script you're tired of reading. You can still perform the lines, flawlessly even, but the feeling is gone. You're an actor in a play, and even you have stopped believing in the character. Psychologically, this is what happens when life energy, what some might call your vital force, begins to withdraw from engagements that are sustained purely by momentum and the need for external validation. When the costume operates for too long, it drains an enormous amount of your inner resources to maintain the illusion, I'm competent, I'm connected, I'm fine. But that reservoir is not bottomless. Eventually, your deeper system reclaims that energy, just as the body will redirect blood flow to protect its core organs in a crisis. Your psyche pulls vitality away from the inauthentic to preserve what is real. You interpret this as losing your drive, but in truth, your energy is being rerouted. It is ceasing to fuel a false self to begin nourishing the true one. The dissolution of this outer layer often starts with a sense of profound disorientation while doing everything right. Not because you've failed, but because your entire being is no longer willing to cooperate with a story that has expired. It is the internal equivalent of a loyal employee giving their notice, not out of anger, but from the quiet realization they can no longer serve a mission that isn't theirs. Many mistake this phase for a breakdown. In reality, it is an act of profound integrity. Your system is refusing to invest in what is no longer true. Consider a simple, everyday archetype. Perhaps you've been the reliable one, the person everyone leans on, always available, the steady hand. That became a part of your costume, and then the crack appears. You find you can no longer muster the expected smile when you're not happy. You have zero patience for superficial exchanges. This confuses you because you thought that pleasant reliability was you. This silent shift also illuminates the tension between the persona you present and the shadow you've hidden. What irritates you in others often points directly to the disowned parts within yourself that the costume suppressed. As the costume cracks, the shadow stirs. You may find yourself more irritable, more withdrawn, more acutely aware of the falseness in the world around you. This is not you becoming worse. It is you becoming more aware of the exiled territories of your own soul. A person who was always on, now seeking stillness, isn't losing their spark. Their social mask is simply dissolving, allowing the true countenance beneath to finally breathe. Sometimes the costume's erosion is even subtler. It doesn't bring sadness. It brings a deep, pervasive neutrality. It's like walking through a beautifully furnished home and having the sudden, chilling realization that none of the furniture is yours. Every choice, every decoration was selected to please a guest who never arrives, a version of you that was built for others. And in that moment, you feel like a visitor in your own life. The most isolating part of this stage is the inability to explain it. How do you tell people you feel disconnected from the very person they think you are, when you yourself don't know who that is? This dissolution creates no external wreckage for others to see and comfort. The emptiness expands inside you, a private room growing darker, and you must sit in it, unsure of the way out. From a Jungian perspective, this is a sacred, if terrifying, threshold. It is the soul initiating a recall, and only by enduring this emptiness can you begin to understand. The breaking is not meant to destroy you. It is making an opening. Second, the necessary dissolution. The necessary dissolution. There is a point in the inner journey that is widely misunderstood and therefore feared. It is when your inner world goes quiet. Motivation evaporates. Your will feels like a muscle that has atrophied. Even the activities that once delivered joy now feel flat and meaningless. Most people label this stagnation, depression, or burnout. But in the framework of transformational psychology, this is the commencement of a deep alchemical process. The stage the ancient alchemists named nigredo, the blackening, the phase where all that is worn out, all that is no longer viable, must decompose so new life can be forged. Nigredo is not grief. It feels more like wandering through the architecture of your own life and realizing you no longer recognize the blueprint. You don't resent these structures. You just feel no connection to them. It is the silence of a once dominant internal program shutting down, making space for a new operating system to install. You feel like a witness to your own life, watching the steam of your breath vanish into a cold night, certain you are alive, but utterly uncertain what you are alive for. That uncertainty is terrifying because it mimics the death of meaning itself. In alchemy, nigredo is the essential first step in turning base metal into gold, and it always begins with putrefaction. Matter must darken, break down, lose its familiar form. So too, your psyche must enter this blackened landscape so that the old within you, outdated beliefs, expired ambitions, outgrown ways of being, can rot away. Nothing retains its former shine. Some describe it as becoming a ghost of myself, but the perspective we must adopt is this. We cannot transform what we do not first allow to end. If the costume is cracking, then Negrito is the moment the entire stage beneath it collapses. You start questioning foundations you never thought to examine. Why this career? Why these relationship patterns? Why did I believe that was my purpose? The greatest shock isn't the lack of answers. It's the dawning awareness that you lived for so long without ever sincerely asking the questions. It's common for people, immediately after reaching a long-sought goal, to plunge into a crisis deeper than any struggle they faced on the way up. They can't comprehend why fulfillment vanishes upon arrival. From a transformational lens, that is Negrito beginning its work. The old narrative has been completed. It has nothing more to give you, and the resulting emptiness is the sterile field prepared for a higher order of being to take root. Negrito is also akin to the hidden mechanics of the seasons. Before a forest erupts in spring green, the leaves must fall. The energy retreats to the roots. The system pulls inward to conserve and reorganize. The human soul operates on the same principle. You contract not because you are weak, but because your inner world is undergoing a restructuring at a depth your conscious mind cannot perceive. This is why even mundane tasks can feel Herculean. Your vitality is being drawn from the surface, from the performance of life, down into the foundations, where the real architecture is being redesigned. What makes Negrito so challenging is its stealth. You never realize you've crossed the threshold into the dark. You only find yourself sinking into a troubling flatness. And because our modern conditioning equates aliveness with constant motion, productivity, and external validation, when those external lights go out, we mistake it for the end of our vitality. But in the alchemical truth, the opposite is happening. When matter blackens, when it loses its form, it is preparing to be reconstituted in a more essential state. If, as you listen, you sense a darkened corner of your own experience being named, feel free to leave a small mark in the comments below, a quiet signal to yourself that says, I see this process within me. Sometimes a single act of acknowledgement is enough to make the path feel less solitary. There is nothing broken about feeling detached from everything. Negrito is not gentle, but it is necessary. The death of the old is rarely peaceful. It arrives wrapped in confusion, ambiguity, and a nameless dread. Yet those who have passed through this darkness all report the same crucial understanding. The emptiness itself is the very chamber where the deepest kind of life begins its slow return. Third, you've been running on borrowed fuel. You've been running on borrowed fuel. And as the old dissolves in the darkness of Negrito, you believe you are simply falling into a void. But that void is the first cleared space where something genuine can finally emerge. Here is the core realization: you have been operating on energy that was never your own. This collapse is not a sign of weakness. It is the moment your unconscious mind stops subsidizing a life it never authorized. Depth psychology suggests we are all influenced by a vast, shared psychic substrate, the collective unconscious. It contains ancient patterns, social blueprints, and behavioral templates far older than our individual selves. What's astonishing is how invisibly they guide us. They shape desires you feel are uniquely yours, when often they are inherited from generations of cultural and familial expectation. So, when you feel disconnected from your own existence, it isn't necessarily that you've lost your spark. It may be that you were never truly living from your own spark to begin with. You are exhausted from trying to sustain a rhythm your soul was never composed to play. The collective unconscious operates like a current. You can't see it, but you swim in its direction. because it seems like the only way to go. It convinces you that happiness lies in a certain status, that pride is found in specific accolades, that fulfillment comes from possessions that command respect. But in those stark moments when you stand amidst the trappings of that success and feel absolutely nothing, a deeper part of you whispers, "This fuel is not for me." Modern psychology might frame this as a values alignment failure. Externally, you are living according to collective templates. Internally, you possess a unique psychic structure, a soul rhythm that belongs solely to you. When these two are in chronic mismatch, both body and mind grow weary, not from inadequacy, but because no organism can thrive indefinitely on a fuel source that is incompatible with its design. Imagine trying to breathe underwater because everyone around you seems to be doing it. You don't listen to your body's need for air, only to the example of the swimmers. At first you might manage, fueled by the desire to belong, but soon your lungs burn, your vision blurs. You cannot continue. That distress isn't failure. It is your biology insisting, "This medium is not for us." The soul operates with the same fidelity. It has its own native tempo, its own source of nourishment, and when you force it to conform to expectations alien to its nature, the unconscious does what any intelligent system will do. It initiates a shutdown. It ceases to allocate energy to pursuits that lead away from your essence. The profound irony is that most people never realize they've been running on borrowed fuel. So when the unconscious withdraws its support, they diagnose it as depression, a decline, a loss of passion. But from this vantage point, we see something else. This is the moment the soul prepares to navigate you back to your authentic center. You aren't losing anything of value. You are shedding what was never truly yours. From a neurochemical perspective, when we live for external validation, our brain's reward circuits operate on an approval-based loop. Each like, each compliment, each recognition delivers a dopamine hit, creating a powerful illusion of being on the correct path. But dopamine fueled by social approval is addictive and notoriously unsustainable. When the deeper psyche recognizes this loop does not nourish your core, it disrupts the circuit. This is why everything that once excited you can suddenly feel hollow. The most painful and ultimately liberating truth is this: many of the dreams you chased with fervor were not yours. They were echoes. You were passionately building a life your inner world never consented to inhabit, and when the unconscious moved to save you by cutting the energy supply, you misinterpreted it as the destruction of your life. In reality, it was the prelude to building a real one. Through this lens, the moment you recognize you've been running on borrowed fuel is your first genuine moment of autonomy. You begin to step out of the gravitational pull of the collective current, and for the first time, in the quiet, you might hear the faint but distinct pulse of your own rhythm. That is where the real journey begins. Fourth, when the depths begin to speak. When the depths begin to speak. From this point forward, your inner life no longer resonates on its old frequency. A dissonance appears, and that very dissonance cracks open the door to what Jung termed synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that defy logical explanation yet carry undeniable resonance. Synchronicity isn't ordinary coincidence, like thinking of a song and hearing it play. It is the unconscious sending encrypted signals when you have stepped off the old mapped path, but your conscious mind hasn't caught up yet. These are moments when the external world mirrors, with uncanny precision, the internal landscape you are navigating. As the old life structure dissolves, synchronicity acts as a homing signal from the depths. a reminder that even in disorientation, an intelligent order is still at work. It's fascinating to note that synchronicities often increase in frequency when you feel most untethered, when the borrowed fuel is gone and you're running on reserves. The unconscious begins broadcasting on a different channel. You're tuned to one station, the station of your old life, while the unconscious transmits on another. This creates interference, and in that static, synchronicity breaks through like a clear signal. Imagine you're mechanically going through the motions of a life that has lost its meaning. You move through your day like an apparition. Then, a line from a book you randomly pick up articulates the exact question haunting your sleepless nights, or a conversation overheard in a cafe seems to directly address the private dilemma you've told no one about. You know it wasn't intended for you, yet it lands with targeted accuracy. From a depth perspective, synchronicity occurs when inner and outer realities achieve a momentary congruence. You didn't manifest it. You and the world simply intersected at the same point of meaning. The outer world becomes a reflective surface for the movements happening in the shadowed parts of your soul. But synchronicity doesn't always arrive as a comforting sign. Sometimes it comes through the people you attract, particularly those who challenge, disappoint, or drain you. You might ask, why do I keep encountering the same type of difficult person? You see it as a pattern of bad luck. But through this lens, it's not a curse. It's a reflection, an external echo of internal turbulence you have not yet addressed. When you operate on borrowed, misaligned energy, your psychic frequency becomes distorted. This distortion isn't visible. It's like a radio tuned slightly off station. The transmission is there, but it's all static and noise. In such a state, you cannot receive clear signals, and in such a state, you will magnetize others who are broadcasting on similarly distorted frequencies. Individuals living in anxiety, scarcity, or their own state of disconnection. As the saying goes, what is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate. If you repeatedly find yourself in dynamics that feel cold, exploitative, or lacking respect, it may not be about the world being against you. It may indicate an unconscious frequency within you, perhaps of permeable boundaries, a hidden hunger for validation, or an unprocessed fear. Wounds recognize each other long before personalities do. Take a quiet breath. Consider this. Could past relational patterns have been mirrors of unexamined territories within yourself? And if so, what part of your inner landscape have you just glimpsed? Synchronicity doesn't only guide you toward light. It often leads you directly to the necessary shadows, so you can finally see the source of the darkness. Sometimes the most potent synchronicity is realizing the person you hoped would be your anchor was, in fact, sent to reveal the shipwreck you've been ignoring within yourself. Synchronicity also speaks in symbols. You might notice a specific image recurring, a particular animal, a natural element, a geometric shape, appearing in dreams, art, and daily life over a short period. These images tap into the archetypal layers of the collective unconscious. When the unconscious needs to communicate something that words cannot capture, it uses symbolism. Symbols transcend linear logic, so you feel as if the cosmos is winking at you. But in this framework, it is your own depths, after a long silence, reopening a dialogue. Synchronicity is evidence of your migration from a social self-existence to a soul self-existence. And this uprising from the depths is not an attack. It is the uprising of the most authentic part of you, the part that never signed the contract to live a borrowed life, even when you buried it under duties, achievements, and noise. When this core self stirs, every coincidence can become a clue. Every repetition can become a map leading you through the unknown. Fifth, the gravity that isn't depression. The gravity that isn't depression. And just as synchronicities begin to flicker through the fog, a heavier, more pervasive layer can descend. You don't just feel disinterested, you feel like you are moving through a dense medium, every action requiring immense effort. Your focus scatters. Joy feels like a concept you read about but can't access. The basic sense of being alive becomes muted, and the fear rises, cold and clinical. Am I clinically depressed? But from the perspective of deep transformation, what you are experiencing may not be pathology. It is often the contraction of consciousness, a natural protective response of the psyche when the old internal architecture has fallen and the new one is not yet built. This is a withdrawal to the core. Consciousness retreats into the dark to reorganize itself, much like a computer reboots its entire operating system. Imagine you've driven the same commute for a decade. You are on autopilot, no map needed. Then one day, the bridge is out. You are forced onto an unmarked road in the fog with no GPS. The disorientation you feel isn't a failure to drive. It's the absence of a known route. Your internal navigation system, which ran on habits and external expectations, has gone offline. The mind is in a void of instruction. Subjectively, this void feels identical to depression, but it is not a collapse. It is a recalibration. In psychological terms, this is an emotional threshold reset. As you change from within, the volume knobs on your emotions are being adjusted. What once stimulated you no longer reaches the threshold. What once brought joy doesn't register, not because you've lost the capacity for joy, but because your system is recalibrating to respond only to stimuli that are truly aligned. You haven't lost your feelings. You are resetting their sensitivity. Here's an analogy. If you work in a loud factory for years, your hearing adapts. A normal conversation might seem like a whisper, but if you then step into a soundproof room, the silence is initially deafening. You might think, I've gone deaf, but you haven't. You're in a new auditory environment, and your system needs time to recalibrate, to hear the subtler sounds, your own heartbeat, your breath. Consciousness behaves similarly during transformation. When the outer world stops being loud in the ways you're accustomed to, you may feel numb, but that numbness is often the necessary recalibration period, so you can begin to hear the quieter, more authentic signals from within. This gravity-like state also stems from the soul's energy conservation protocol. When the unconscious perceives that you have been hemorrhaging vitality on inauthentic pursuits, it initiates a power-saving mode. Like a device dimming its screen to preserve battery, your mind begins to close unnecessary programs, mute external stimuli, and dampen responses to prevent a total system crash. This shutdown creates the sensation of inner emptiness, but in truth, it is a defense against a far more devastating burnout. Look deeper. Clinical depression often steals hope, leaving a flat, inert landscape. But in this transformational gravity, if you listen closely, you may still detect faint tremors of movement beneath the surface. A spark of curiosity about a new topic, a sudden, clear no arising from within. A question you've never dared voice. These are not the signs of depression. They are the first stirrings of a new life. The crucial distinction is this. You are in the anteroom of growth. It is the phase where consciousness must surrender control, so a new, more authentic structure can self-organize. What makes it so frightening is the lack of visibility. You can't see where you're being led. You only know you are leaving the old country behind. But remember, All genuine psychological development requires an increased tolerance for ambiguity and anxiety. Thank you for walking with me this far. If any of these reflections have resonated, have illuminated a fragment of your own journey, I invite you to stay until the end. The path ahead opens into even deeper layers of understanding, and if you wish to continue exploring this terrain together, consider subscribing. It's a simple way to ensure we don't lose each other on this journey back to the core. Sixth, the subtle signals of shift. The subtle signals of shift. And just when you're uncertain if you're sinking or floating, small, quiet signals begin to surface. So faint you could miss them, yet so significant that once noticed, they confirm this is not collapse, this is transition. And true transitions rarely arrive with fanfare. They arrive as whispers. The first, most telling sign is that your reactions change. Where you were once easily triggered by criticism, slight, or indifference, you now find you simply don't have the energy for the drama. You lose interest in the petty battles you once felt compelled to win. This newfound quiet, though it may worry you at first, is an early indicator of inner maturation. Another signal emerges in your decreasing need to explain yourself. Previously, if someone misunderstood you, you felt an urgent compulsion to correct the record, to manage their perception. Now, you notice that urge has dissolved. You no longer feel the pull to justify, to convince, or to wage peace by betraying your own truth. This silence isn't defeat. It's the sign of someone stepping out of a life curated for an audience and into a life authored from within. Then, you may observe a loosening grip on outcomes. The things you once micromanaged, success metrics, others' responses, social approval, begin to lose their gravitational weight. You're less anxious when plans change. You don't panic over delayed replies. You cease interpreting detours as failures. This is a clear signal your consciousness is shifting from a mode of frantic doing to a mode of observant being. Another profound sign is a growing need for genuine solitude. You crave space not to escape, but to attune. Interestingly, silence used to feel like an enemy. Now it feels like a sanctuary. Stillness is no longer a threat. It's becoming a home. As the psychologist might say, loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being unable to communicate what feels vital within you. Your desire for solitude isn't antisocial. It is the most important social connection you can make, the reconnection with yourself. As you shift, your relational tolerance changes. You no longer have the stamina for connections that once drained you. You see the dynamic you once justified with clarity. The compulsion to play savior fades. You begin to recognize a hard truth. Not every bond is meant to last. Not every person has a permanent role in your story. Choosing to walk away becomes an act of self-preservation, not cruelty. Another subtle yet vital sign, time itself seems to decelerate. Your pace is no longer driven by hurry, achieve, or get it done. You move more deliberately. You respond after consideration, not from reflex. This isn't laziness. It's you stepping out of the forced rhythm of your former life and learning to move at your soul's natural cadence. And finally, you may sense the first fragile filaments of an unfamiliar peace, like a single shaft of sunlight piercing a dusty room. One morning, you wake and the weight feels a fraction lighter. One afternoon, you observe the sky and feel a softening in your chest just for a moment. You laugh genuinely and realize it's been a long time. These micro moments are the first breaths of a soul that has been holding its breath for years. But perhaps the most significant signal of all is this: you have no desire to go back. You may not yet see the destination, but you are absolutely certain you don't want to return to the country you left. That feeling is the hallmark of what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming an undivided, authentic self. These signals are quiet, but they are trustworthy. They are the inner compass, the faint stars guiding you through the night. And once you learn to recognize them, you'll understand you are not falling. You are being quietly, patiently reassembled. Seventh, the reassembly. The reassembly. When the signals of shift begin to glow like embers in the dark, you'll grasp the central truth. You are no longer in the phase of dissolution. You are entering the phase of formation. A quiet reassembly is underway within you. Not a loud, dramatic rebirth, but a deep cellular realignment. This is the heart of individuation, the journey toward wholeness. Individuation isn't about becoming superior or perfect. It is a homecoming, a retrieval of the scattered fragments of your essence that you abandoned over the years while chasing a life script you didn't write. It is like rediscovering a room in your own house that you had sealed off long ago. The room where you stored all the parts of yourself that didn't fit the old costume. And now, piece by piece, you are bringing them back into the light. Reassembly begins with a quiet, internal shift. You feel a pull to live differently, not to become more impressive, but to become more real. This is the critical difference between a surface-level upgrade and a foundational transformation. In this process, your conscious mind and your unconscious depths begin to collaborate. The internal civil war starts to cease. You begin to understand that you are not one at the expense of the other. You are the integration of both, and this reconciliation brings a profound, grounded serenity you've likely never known. Reassembly is like a seed germinating in the dark earth. You don't witness the moment the shell cracks or the first root hairs emerge, but one day you look back and realize you are not the person you were just a season ago. You are more grounded. A stillness resides within you. You react less, and paradoxically, you perceive the world with more clarity. Not because the world has changed, but because you've stepped out of the fog of borrowed perception. Through this lens, this is when the self, the central archetypal core of your being, begins to speak with more authority. It opens within you a new possibility that you can live authentically without sacrificing everything. It feels like discovering your house has many windows, and you've spent your life looking through just one. Now, you see the full panorama of your potential. Those who move through individuation often describe their inner world as settling, like murky water becoming clear, not because life's challenges vanish, but because they stop stirring the sediment with old anxieties and reactions. And when the water is clear, you can see the bottom. You see what you truly value, what you need to release, and what you must embrace. This is the moment when intuition becomes your most reliable guide. To nurture this reassembly, there is a simple, potent practice. Each day, grant yourself 5 minutes of pure inquiry. Ask one question: what feels true for me right now? Some days the answer is, I am weary. Other days, I need space, or I want to create. Sometimes, unexpectedly, I feel a quiet strength returning. These 5 minutes act as a daily tether, pulling your energy back from the world's noise into your own center. Gradually, you will feel the transformation consolidating. Another practice: when faced with a choice, don't first ask, what should I do? Instead, pause and ask, which path feels like an expansion in my chest? Which feels like a contraction? Your somatic intelligence, the wisdom of the body, always knows. Fear often speaks in the mind. Truth often resonates in the body. When you choose the option that brings even a slight sense of inner opening, you are walking the path of individuation. Reassembly is not the moment you become your most dazzling, perfect self. It is the moment you realize you are being reconstituted from the inside out, and life no longer requires you to perform in order to exist. It becomes a space where you can simply be, and in that being, see yourself with unflinching clarity. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration, you may arrive at a truth that seems simple, yet has the power to reorient your entire inner world. Conclusion: what you named as loss was, in fact, the necessary clearing. It is how your inner ecology makes space for what truly belongs. It is the process by which the soul prepares the ground for new growth. And perhaps, for the first time after a long season of gray, you find you are no longer afraid of the quiet, because you understand that within it, someone has been waiting, the one you misplaced amid the noise and the need to please. So if you find yourself suspended in the in-between, know this with certainty: nothing is wrong with you. You are not breaking, you are returning, and your life in its profound wisdom is slowly, patiently opening.